Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Glenorchy Planning Authority for the 14th of July 2025. And I'd like to first start by acknowledging the Milwina people as the traditional owners of the land. We recognise all Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the original owners and the continuing custodians of the land and the waters of this island Victoria. And we pay our respects to the Aboriginal elders past and present, and we commit to working for a city that welcomes and respects all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. My name is Russell Yaxley and I'm the Deputy Mayor of the Glenorchy City Council and the Chair of this afternoon's Planning Authority meeting. Joining me this afternoon is Alderman Tim Marks, Alderman Justin Stringer, Alderman Josh Cockshott, and our new CEO, Mr. Emilio Real, is here as an observer today. So we're going to start with item 1 of our planning, which is our Planning Authority Declaration. The Glenorchy Planning Authority intends to act as a planning authority under the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993. The Planning Authority has full power to make planning decisions on behalf of the Council. Our meeting procedures are: number 1, planning officers will present an assessment and recommendation and then answer any questions of elected members. The chairperson invites the applicant and any other interested party to have their say by addressing the meeting or asking any questions, and those speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Please note that at this stage, a decision has not been made on the application. The chairperson may ask the planning authority to comment on any matters raised. The planning authority will then discuss the application. From there, the statutory planning applications and the planning authority decides the application, and then the senior statutory planner explains the appeal rights. And for planning schedule amendments, the strategic planner explains the decisions made by the Planning Authority and the Tasmanian Planning Commission. So legal requirements is when deciding an application, this authority is required by law to seek to further the sustainable development objectives of the Act, consider representations received during the public notification period, and make the decision by reference to the current planning scheme. Our rules are pretty simple. Please comply with any directions given by myself, and please respect other people's views. They have rights to have their say. We'll move on to item number 2, which is apologies and leave of absence. We have an apology from the Mayor, Sue Hickey. And is there anyone else? No, that's all.
Stephen King.
Yes, we'll get to Steve very shortly. Item number 3 is pecuniary interest. Does any of our members here have any pecuniary interest? I just want to note that Alderman Stephen King does have, he was a normal member of our planning authority and does have an interest in this afternoon's agenda, so he won't be here today. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the confirmations of the minutes. Do I have someone to confirm or move the minutes of the Planning Authority on the June 16th? Thank you, Alderman Tim Marks. And a seconder, Alderman Cockshott. Any further discussion at all required? I will put the item to the vote. All in favour? That's passed unanimously. Moving on to item number 5, which is our topic for today, is the proposed use and development of the new building for sports and recreation at 61 Claremont Link Road, Claremont. And the recommendation is that a permit is granted, that a permit be granted for the new building and sports recreation at 61 Claremont Link Road, subject to the following conditions, which are in the agenda. And there's 15 conditions there, and there's also some planner advice as well. So I will invite our team, our planning officers, to present the proposal and finish with our recommendation. Thanks so much.
Okay, so what we're here to talk about today is 61 Claremont Link Road. So this is a new building for sport and recreation known as the Glenorchy Sports Centre. So essentially what we've got is we're looking at the Claremont College site, joined by the highway and Claremont Link Road, and we're looking roughly where the marker is to place a new building, the land for which will be excised potentially down the track to take it out of school ownership and put it into a separate Department of Crown ownership, but that's not part of this application, even though it's shown on the plans. So the building it will be located, as you can see, at the curve in the road. There'll be a 68 space car park there. There'll be pick-up and drop-off facilities for buses. There'll be loading bay for anything that's needed. To the bottom left of the building, you can just see a small yellow square, roughly where that will occur. Inside the building, we have 4 full-sized courts for basketball, I believe netball, indoor soccer, a multitude of indoor sports will be able to be played within the facility. There's also meeting rooms, change rooms, storage areas, a cafeteria, lobby. I'm sure the applicant would correct me if I've missed anything, but general facilities that you would expect with a building of this nature. Here is a rendering that has been kindly supplied by the applicant showing what it will look like as we enter the driveway, not off Claremont Link Road, but as we come into the driveway to the centre itself. The application has a few discretions for the size and nature of the building. It's actually quite well considered, I think. So we've got the fact of the use of the building, which is discretionary by nature of being adjacent to residential land. So that looks to lighting, hours of operation of lighting, not of the building itself because of the proximity of the building, but just because the land adjoins the residential land adjacent. Building height is about 2 metres over height, but again, it's cut into a hillside, so the apparent height is much less than the actual building height. There is an illuminated sign proposed on Claremont Link Road, which will replace the existing Claremont College signage, which will be shared between Claremont College at the top, the sports facility at the bottom. So it'll be a single sign within the streetscape, but it will be illuminated, which triggers the need for discretionary consideration. Within the car parking area, not all aisles have a pedestrian walkway adjacent to the parking aisles, which again triggers a discretion, but given the layout of the car park, our development engineers who are in the room at the moment have deemed it to be adequate and appropriate. Again, vehicle traffic generation, anticipated numbers of users of the site triggers a technical discretion entering and exiting Claremont Link Road. However, there's been extensive traffic study into this, and it's deemed that Claremont Link Road has capacity to manage that. The last bit is a bit of a technical discretion. The works within a flood-prone hazard area. At the bottom of the site, just go back up. The bottom of the site where the green lines are, where we've got a blue, looks like a train track running through or a stitches running through. Generally, that area is potentially flood prone. There's very limited works in that area, but because there are access and infrastructure such as pipes in that area, there's that technical discretion down through there. We've received one representation for the proposal. The representation is in regard to the bulk and massing of the building adjacent to the residential land. Now, the residential land directly adjacent is to the east, northeast, and to the north. To the north, it will be invisible due to the Claremont College existing buildings. To the northeast, this is sort of a north-northeast, this is looking at it from the east-northeast. So as we can see, the building is set into the hillside quite nicely, and it still has long views over and beyond it. So it's also between, I think, 60 metres at the closest point and 100 and something metres at the furthest point from the adjacent residential land. So there is significant setback to make the bulk and massing considered acceptable, particularly given the zoning of the land, the existing use of the land and the nature of the buildings that would go there. So this is just a bit of a view of roughly the direction that the representation concern was. Now, within the planning scheme, there's not a lot to address that representation concern. However, separate to the planning process, we've spoken to the applicant, and the State Growth have had discussions with the representatives' consent, of course, to give them details. So they've reached an understanding of what might be a separate appropriate vegetated screening or additional plantings that won't form part of this process. So are there any questions?
So any questions from our elected members?
Yes, so I have a question on the parking.
Yes.
I've noticed on the plan it has 10 EV parking spots, but only 3 disabled parking spots. But I noticed in the paperwork that they want to have accessible for wheelchair basketball, wheelchair soccer, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot more people in wheelchairs going there for these sports. I was wondering if they could consider at least 3 more parking spots for disabled.
We've actually got Bree Nuxut, our development engineer, on the call, so I might see if Bree can answer.
Yep.
the question.
So the total parking for this site is 63, which technically they only need 2 DDA compliant or disabled parking spaces. Now they provided 3, which is over the requirement. So yeah, it can comply with the BCA and codes. So that's a consideration that but I think if there are more requirements as we go, we can easily sort of adjust that as we go, because they actually provided more um, than required.
So I think that,
So that-
sorry, Bree, I was going to say, I think what Bree's saying is that we already have a surplus of car parking spaces. So if it becomes apparent through use that there is a need to alter and reduce the number of parking spaces to accommodate additional disability access spaces, then that is something that could be accommodated without the need for an amendment to the planning permit to a certain extent. But I guess that the applicants try to maximise parking numbers, so they'll have to base any changes on operational needs once it starts to get used.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Alderman Stringer or Glenorchy?
No, not at the moment.
No. Okay, no worries. I've got a couple of questions. Just regarding the acceptable provision of 50 car parks is obviously under the Car Park and Sustainable Transport Code, from what I understand. And then the table C 2.1, which wasn't part of the paperwork, but I've done a little bit of digging on my own. Which I just wanted to confirm, because I just wanted to make sure that before I sort of asked my question, was that this specific use was under the other sporting facility?
Oh gosh, you got me on the spot there.
Sorry.
Bear with me while I work out how to bring up the scheme. And work through the table together, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, so we are in parking and sustainable transport.
Right, Helen, or
Yes, Bree, sorry, go ahead.
can hear you from afar, but to answer your questions, that's correct. We only require to comply with the scheme 50 spaces, and they provide the total of 68. So that's well over what's required to meet the acceptable solution.
Yeah.
So yes, it wouldn't fit any of the other definitions within that table, so that would be the fallback.
The fullback.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we've got 10 dedicated for EV.
Yes.
So are we assuming that the people that will have an EV will then be charging, or will they park in other spots?
I couldn't actually answer that. I know
Yeah.
that it's an emerging trend to make
Yes,
sure there's
absolutely.
EV parking available
Appreciate that.
everywhere.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
is a facility that will be attracting users from all over the state.
Yeah.
So I would actually anticipate that if we've got a tournament or a competition on at the facility, it's quite likely that there will be users who will drive down from the north to northwest coast and need to take advantage of the charging facilities.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I'm concerned that while I appreciate that we meet the code, and I appreciate that that's 50 car spaces under that, the other sporting facility. I understand that, but I kind of feel that we've got 4 courts that are actively being used at the same time. And then, so you're going to add 10 to 15 players on each court. You're going to have 2 or 3 referees, coaches, officials, and then you add 20 to 30, 40 family and friends spectating on one court, and then times that by 4. And then you have other people arriving for their game at that same time, or another game is going on. So I just I can't see practically how that works. I appreciate that we're acting as the planning authority here, and I understand that. But from a practical point of view, and I appreciate that we've got the potential for overflow elsewhere. I just am concerned that that is not enough car parks and we will have issues moving forward.
Absolutely, I can understand that concern. As you said, first and foremost, as a planning authority, we're already 18 in excess, so we've already got 20% more car parking spaces than required. That said, one of the things we can't consider as a planning authority at the moment that we're all aware of is the park and ride facility opposite, because it's been approved but it hasn't been commenced yet, so it has limited status in the terms of assessing this application. Notwithstanding that, that's intended, to my understanding, to be a commuter facility which will operate primarily 7 till 6 will be when that's most densely utilised by commuters. From 6 through till 7 the next morning, that parking will sit dormant. The sporting facility on the converse will generally operate outside of business hours, so there will be an expectation of some sharing of that facility. My understanding is that informal discussions would be had with the college who have further car parking up the road, and there's a walkway through the site from the college down to this facility. So again, it would be not something we can consider, but there would be an informal parking arrangement up there. I anticipate that sporting families and sporting people looking to park wherever they can, the side of that road will become a utilised space, although we can't consider it. Claremont Link Road actually is quite a wide verge that would facilitate additional parking, and the site itself actually has been designed to be set in a green space, so it's been designed quite deliberately to have open area around it. The converse of that was a balancing act of how much green space, how much car parking through the design process. If it comes to pass that there's simply not enough parking and that's becoming a deterrent to its use, I would think that that will be something that will be considered in the operational site. So there is space to accommodate additional car parking if it becomes apparent that it's not simply not enough, but equally it's been designed to be a pleasant facility and just not a sea of bitumen.
Fully understand. I certainly understand that. It's just, I can see it. I'm concerned. And my other concern is that intersection, once the bus exchange is created, is that obviously that's been approved now, but not necessarily as part of this application, that will be a busy intersection with buses and cars and people crossing roads.
Absolutely.
The
TAA for this has actually, for all that it can't formally consider it, has actually considered it, and it has the advice within the TAA is subject to the anticipated future usage and subject to the anticipated future park and ride. The intersection will be sufficient. Our traffic engineer, who's unfortunately not with us today, has already got plan B, C and D in the back pocket in case this does become a problem. We've got all of the TAs, we've got all of the reports, everything is telling us that it's not going to be a problem. But it was a real consideration in our assessment of it, and it was a real consideration when comparing both the TAA for park and ride, the TAA for this, and experience and a wealth of knowledge of how things operate. That there are, the first and foremost is the report say it's fine. If the popularity grows, then there's already contingencies.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just double check again, any other questions from elected members? Any other questions or anything from the applicant or people within us today here? No, nothing at all. Not a worry. Thank you for your attendance. Anyway, it's great to have you here. So if I could ask someone to move the recommendation, Alderman Cockshott, and second is Alderman Tim Marks. Any further discussion?
Well, I think it's a really good proposal. I think it's been a long time coming, that's for sure, and the community is crying out for indoor courts across all sports. So it's really pleasing to see this application come to the GPA today. Totally get the concerns in regards to parking, but it sounds like everyone's got some plans for that. Should it be an issue? But I think overall, we look at the forecourts, the community impact, the park and ride. I'm pleased to see it here. I think there's been a lot of due diligence in the process in getting it to this stage, and I look forward to hopefully, should it pass today, go to the next steps of planning procedure. So from my perspective, I think it's a great thing for the city, particularly community sport, which is the heartland of everything. So yeah, let's see how it goes, right?
All right. Any further discussion at all? No, you're all good. Yeah, I'll make a final comment. Obviously, there's been a number of discretions that we have, that our team have looked into and assessed. So I'm satisfied with their assessment. It's great to see that the representative that made a representation that was able to be satisfied as well, and good conversations have been able to have. So good, mature conversations, which is great to see. And just from a non-planning side of things, this is a great facility, and it's something that I know the council and everyone around the table here are certainly excited about. And we know that we're excited. We're not excited for us, but we're excited for our community. That it's going to be a great asset for our community, and we need plenty more. So apart from that, I will put the motion to a vote. All in favour? That's passed unanimously. So Senior Planner, we explained the appeals process.
Okay. So a permit will issue in the coming days. There will be, because we have a representative, there will be a 14-day appeal process where either the applicant can appeal the conditions that have just been passed, or the representative can appeal the decision that's been made. And once that 14 days has lapsed, we'll be able to progress to the next stages and seek building and plumbing approval for the works.
Perfect. All right, so that brings us to a close of our...
Sorry, I just realised something. At last meeting, I actually wasn't here, and I approved of a mirror of the minute, so I have to go back to the next GPA. Apologies for my months mixed around.
Sorry.
Yes, I was away.
Sorry.
I was Councillor Kendall was a proxy for me at the June GPA.
Yeah.
So those minutes will just have to be moved to the August GPA for approval.
They was, yeah.
Because you're the board member. There's only yourself who was present.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm going to move for a second.
Yeah, we can move them forward. That's fine. All right, we'll make a note of that minute taker, and we'll move that forward. So again, apart from that, bring ourselves to a close, or meeting to a close. Thank you everyone for attending, and have a good afternoon.